Hello. Today we're doing lesson 18, the male reproductive system, or male reproductive anatomy, more so just kind of learning what the parts of the male reproductive system are and the jobs of each of them. This is a bit of a longer assignment. Your assignment is going to be to do some worksheets with some diagrams and a couple questions, and then taking pictures of those and, of course, submitting them to me to be looked at. This is a little bit more work, and the reading package could be a little complicated. Don't be too confused if there's words in the reading package that don't exactly line up with the slideshow. If you think like there's always words like testes or testicles or gonads, they all mean the same thing. So if you think you know what a word means but you're not sure, try it, put it in there, and if you have a question, feel free to ask me. But once again, in science, there's lots of different terms for similar things. So don't get too stressed out if the wording isn't exactly the same. That's something you've got to get used to. So today, we're going to be looking at the male reproductive anatomy, and this is the slide. It looks like this in your notes. So this is what we're looking at today, and then your worksheets we'll get into right away. So the first thing, male reproductive system. The goal is to produce healthy sperm that can reproduce. That's the number one goal, right? Goal of the male reproductive system is to make sperm that can reproduce. Next thing for the male reproductive system, sperm is produced in the testes, which are located outside the main body cavity in a sac of tissue called the scrotum. So the sac of tissue is called the scrotum. Inside the testes, the sperm are produced in seminiferous tubules. Approximately 350 to 500 million sperm are produced each day. So there's your first comparisons, right? Because later on in your next assignment, in assignment 4, I think, or sorry, it wouldn't be 4 for you, it would be 16, 17, an assignment 20 for you. You're going to have to compare male and female. We'll look at this one. Outside, and the next would be 350 to 500 million. Those are big differences than the female, right? Female reproductive system, mostly inside the main body cavity, and produces like 1 a month. So there's some big differences. But you got to know that inside the testes, there's these like almost like tubes that create the sperm, right? You can almost think of it like a factory. There would be like all these empty holes that they would put something in, and then they would take it out and it would make millions of them at a time on a factory assembly line. That's kind of like what's going on with the seminiferous tubules in the testes, right? There's all these tubes that are going to create sperm, and then they're going to be released. Now, interesting fact, sperm is made in the testes, but it's not released directly from there. The sperm is made in the testes, and then it gets stored in the epididymis, which we'll talk about later. And then it is released later. Now let's move on. Oh, there we go. So when the sperm move out of the testes, they are stored in the epididymis. Don't worry, you're going to understand what that looks like right away because we're going to get to a diagram. But testes, and then the epididymis is a little storage area kind of on top of the testes. So the sperm is made in the testes, and then it's stored in the epididymis. From the epididymis, now this is during intercourse or ejaculation. This is the path that the sperm takes. Now, I know it's a little bit confusing, but you've got to know this because this is something that would be on a test or on a worksheet, is the path that sperm takes as it leaves the body. So it starts in the testes, goes to the epididymis. So there's your first 2 steps. Now, once there's intercourse or ejaculation, the sperm quickly goes from the epididymis into a tube, around in a kind of loop, through some glands, and then out the penis. So get this part kind of, it's a path. It's like a here, 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 here. So you've got to kind of start thinking of it like that. So from the epididymis, the sperm travel through tubes called the vas deferens. To help the sperm, they are mixed with fluids from the prostate gland and the seminal vesicles. Important stuff here, don't worry. Once you get to the diagrams and to the worksheet you're going to work on, it's going to explain it a little bit more. This is the first time you're seeing the path that the sperm takes. Oh, now these glands, so if you want to look, I'm going to actually show you a little bit ahead here, right? So it starts at the testes, And then once the sperm is produced every day, it is stored in the epididymis, which is right on top of the testes. Once ejaculation or intercourse happens, quickly it goes out of the epididymis. The vas deferens is this tube. It goes around quickly, seminal vesicles, and the prostate gland. Now both of these, as the sperm travels out the penis, are adding fluid to the sperm to help it flow and to give it nourishment so that it can reach the egg inside of the female. So, testes, epididymis, quickly through the vas deferens, seminal vesicles add fluid, the prostate gland adds fluid, and then out the penis. The last part of the tube inside the penis where the sperm travels is actually called urethra. Good to know. So now you can kind of visualize that. So let's go back. So those glands, the prostate gland and the seminal vesicles, add fluid, right? Once it's all mixed together, we call that semen. So let's think about this, right? The semen moves out of the body through the urethra. A small valve prevents urine and semen from being in the urethra at the same time. Important to know. So the next slide is once again this. Now, remember the path, right? So you should make a list maybe. I'm not going to ask you to because you're going to have questions that are going to explain this. So you're going to have to do these questions, but just think with me for a second, right? Produced in the testes, stored in the epididymis. Once it's ejaculated, it goes out the vas deferens. Seminal vesicles add fluids, add some kind of fluid here, add some kind of fluid here, then out the penis through the urethra. So you're going to have a lot of questions. So that brings us to the assignment, and there's quite a bit of work today. What you need to do is you need to find this sheet right. Oh, I have it up here too. Right here, right? The male reproductive system. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to read all of this, and it tells you a little bit more of the jobs and the parts, but we've kind of talked about them now a little bit, right? This gives you much more information than the slide that we went through. You're going to have to read this on your own. You're going to learn about all the parts, what they add, and then your assignment is to fill out the parts of the male reproductive system and answer some of these questions. Tell me the job of each of these parts. And then you also have this package, right? The male reproductive system, and this is going to be a slightly different diagram. Just like when you look at a picture of a cell versus a diagram of a cell, a little bit different. So here's the same parts generally, but in a slightly different way to look at it. And you'll have to label this chart. And you'll have to answer some of these questions. So that's your assignment. So that would be assignment 18. Assignment 18 is doing all of the male reproductive stuff. There's a lot of reading. There is a lot of detail, and it's going to take some time. So I'm going to give you 2 days to work on it. So don't stress too much. When you're done assignment 18 on the male reproductive system, take pictures of all the work you've done and submit it to me on the Google Classroom. We'll be back tomorrow to do lesson 19, which is the female reproductive system. And it's going to be almost the exact same thing where I'm going to give you some notes, and then you're going to have to do some reading and do some work on your own. So we'll see you soon.